I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Chicago. Thank you all to who is here in person, and also hello to everyone who is joining in on our live stream. We really appreciate you all being here for this. This is our first candidate forum of the season that we are hosting, and we really look forward to all of your support for this. Just a few quick words before we begin. If you're not familiar with the League of Women Voters, we've been around for over 100 years, kind of at the end of the suffrage movement of the early 1900s, and have continued our work in Chicago on behalf of civil rights issues, voting rights issues, women's rights issues, and beyond. So if anyone's interested in sort of learning more about the work that we do, you can find any of us that have League buttons on after the forum. Our relationship and why we're hosting our forum here today at Montgomery Place has special meaning for not just Montgomery Place, but also for the League. So this is a tribute to one of our longtime League members, Dorothy Sheff. She died last year, and she was such a force in Chicago, spent her whole life working for, and amplifying other people, working on behalf of women's issues, children's issues, Chicago issues. And she was a longtime member of the South Side, basically being a force of nature down here with League of Women Voters. And so we were so sad to learn of her passing last year, and we are very happy to continue our partnership with Montgomery Place in her honor and beyond to bring voter education and voter service to everyone, not just here, but in the greater South Side. So with that, I'm going to pass over the mic to Catherine Marditz, who will be our moderator, and thank you all for joining.
Let me get myself a little organized so I can run around. Okay, just a few ground rules. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, got it. Everybody hold it close because it's sensitive. It's not sensitive. Okay, so I'm asking you now if you will turn off or silence all of your cell phones and other mobile devices. No unauthorized video taping of the event, but anyone's available to, it'll be available on our website. The audience, we ask you to hold your applause until the very end. No applause during someone's speech or anything the opposite of that. The question response times will be indicated by me, and the timers will be letting the candidates know, giving them some warning along the way. They will be able to finish a sentence, provided that it isn't one of those German long periodics. Maybe a solution, we'll see. Okay, and actually, we'll be starting with 90-second opening statements from all of our candidates in alphabetical order this way, and then we will be having 90 seconds closing remarks alphabetical the other way. Also, they will be here afterwards. We'll spread out through the various rooms, but they'll be here so that you can go up and answer questions. There will also be literature available at that time. We don't have literature in the room. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get this going, and I'm going to have to make friends with this mic. All right, so we'll start down here. with Marlene Fisher. Marlene?
Is this thing on?
There's a button. Right.
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marlene Fisher, and currently I live in Greater Grand Crossing. I've been living in South Shore, and I moved to Greater Grand Crossing, and I bought
Please stand up.
Oh, okay. Okay, is this better?
Yeah.
Okay, I wrote it
It's good for
down.
all of us, yeah.
Yeah, let me shake off the nerves here. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marlene Fisher. I'm for Greater Grand Crossing. I bought a home. My minute is up. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm running for alderman because I love the Fifth Ward. I've moved over to Greater Grand Crossing and I fell in love with the community. There's a lot of opportunities over there for us to grow the community and grow the Fifth Ward. We all have shared commonalities with public safety, with economic concerns, and with housing. So I'm a believer in equitable housing. I live in a housing. My housing was a part of an affordable housing program with Gary Comer. I'm very familiar with the ward. I'm very familiar with the initiatives. I'm very familiar with public safety. I'm for police accountability and for community policing. I see the 15 seconds. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marlene Fisher. Wallace Good, you are next.
I'm not gonna start until he stops. 90 seconds. Wallace Good. I'm running for the Fifth Ward. My family's lived in the Fifth Ward all my life. I'm a son of Woodlawn. I went to Catholic school and I was educated by nuns. I went to Mount Carmel and learned discipline, teamwork, and leadership. And then I was tutored by University of Chicago students through elementary school. Can't tell you if they helped improve my grades or not, but I can tell you that they took me to University of Chicago campus, Loyola, Northwestern, and DePaul. And in 5th grade, I knew I wanted to go to college. That was invaluable to me. I've traveled around the world and served 2 tours in the United States Peace Corps doing community organizing, and I've been a dean at 4 different universities. My last opportunity was to do business development for High Park Chamber businesses, but working for the mayor, I helped them develop workforce development and find unemployed, underemployed, and illegally employed individuals opportunities within our corporate world. I believe in 6 things, EEE, economics, education, and our environment. I believe in making sure that we go gangbusters or assault, as I say, on the assault weapons. I believe that we really need to think about another strategy for access healthcare in our community, and I think our youth need alternatives. I work for the city, I speak city. I work for the University of Chicago, I speak University of Chicago. 2 important languages that we all understand. Grew up on the South Side, and I'm committed to the arts, so I hope that you will find at this time how critical it is to have an alderman who has experience in government. I'll stop right there.
Thank you, Wallace Good. And next we'll hear from Joshua Gray.
Afternoon. This is very encouraging to see people out here, even amongst our times, I guess beyond COVID or still in COVID, to have this many people here to see us talk. So I want to thank you guys for all taking part of this. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this. My name is Joshua Gray, as said. I, of course, like the other people here, want to be your alderperson. I have a unique set of skills that kind of set me apart from people on this table. 20 years community organizer, worked in the 5th, 6th, and 17th Ward. I worked under people like Father Flager. I served in education for, well, I guess I'm a lifelong educator. Been in education for 13 years, teacher, dean, and assistant principal. This last, I would say, since 2018, I went over to politics, ran for office for Cook County Commissioner. Then started to run my own consulting firm, political consulting firm. I have 30 seconds. I just have a unique set of skills, people skills. I speak city. I actually don't want. I actually want to know what university sounds like. I don't know what university sounds like. I would love to hear that language, but I hope I can learn that as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joshua Gray. Next up is Jocelyn Haar.
Jocelyn Hare.
I meant to ask.
Thank you for having me. I am a longtime resident of Hyde Park. The first home I bought as a single woman is on Hyde Park Boulevard, just a couple blocks over from here. I'm running for office because I have seen over the last 11 years walking to and from work the changes in our community. And I've seen our small businesses close. I have seen our rents go up. And I ran for office 8 years ago because I had worked with Mayor Freeman Wilson in Gary, Indiana, and we learned that we could get things done in a city with no resources. We accomplished a lot. We opened a culinary arts incubator. We won over $10 million of federal funds to demolish blighted buildings. And when I ran last time, and it was an amazing experience, and I said I'd do it again when the time was right. Since 2015, I've been working with WeCan, Woodlawn East Community of Neighbors, the South Shore Community Compact, and Washington Park Residents Advocacy Council to map every single property in those neighborhoods, pull in the data on rents, talk to residents. Residents were completely part of this. They came up with their own recommendations for housing. We see that Lori's Deli just had a property tax increase of 87%. If we do not help our local businesses, they're gonna close or they're gonna have to raise prices. And our students and our people on fixed incomes can't afford that. I'm running because I have a plan, and I've been working with the community, and I wanna get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Okay, next is Martina Tina Hone. That's what she'll be on the ballot, but we know you as Tina.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tina Hone. Born in Hyde Park, raised in Roseland. My mother's African American, and my father is from the former Yugoslavia. And I bring that up because looks can be deceiving, and I want you to understand that my commitment to civil rights and social justice and equity are deeply personal and come from my own lived experience. Because of that experience and that commitment, I actually left the practice of law in 1992 and joined the Teach for America program on the heels of the Rodney King verdict. I then moved to Washington, D.C., and spent the bulk of my 20 years there working on a range of civil rights and social justice issues. I came home to Chicago and Hyde Park about 6 years ago after the sudden and unexpected death of my husband. I rebuilt from that crushing grief by getting back to work on behalf of my city. I worked as Chief Equity Officer at YWCA Chicago, serving every part of this ward. I was Chief Engagement Officer for the City of Chicago, and the significance and relevance of that experience is that I can be effective for this ward on day one. I know how government works. I know how to overcome bureaucracies. I know how to get things done. I'm also the only person here who's actually governed. I was an elected member of the Fairfax County School Board. Governing is about balancing competing legitimate interests. It's not the same as advocacy. It's not the same as organizing. You have to find someone who has the maturity, the know-how, the depth of understanding to be able to figure out what's the maximum benefit with the minimum harm. That's what governing's about, and I'm the person who's governed, and I would love to be your alderman for the 5th Ward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina Hone. Next up is Adrian Ermer.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me be the first to wish each of you a happy new year. Welcome to 2023, and I think with the new year brings some new energy, and for the 5th Ward, that comes in the form of a new alderperson. And I'm seeking to be that next alderperson, not just because I love the South Side and Hyde Park and South Shore, but because the next chapter of the 5th Ward, it is critical that we have a leader who can hit the ground running on day one. And I don't say that to be trite. I say that to say that there are so many eyes on the 5th Ward. There are so many issues facing the 5th Ward that are immediate. This is not a 2-year learning curve position. This is something where we need somebody with the experience. I've had the pleasure to serve my community at city, Cook County, and Illinois state government. You're not the only person who's governed. I've served as an appointed commissioner to the SSA number 42 in South Shore, and I voted to invest over $1 million on our commercial corridors in South Shore. I'm the only person here on this panel who's actually voted to invest dollars in this community. I'm a child of Hyde Park. I grew up right down the street from here on 52nd and Kimbark. I went to Ancona, Ray, Lab, Kenwood. Very quintessential Hyde Park experience. And then I was blessed because of the teachers in the village that poured into me. I grew and developed a love of STEM, and I went to the MIT as the first Kenwood Academy grad to graduate from MIT. Thank you for being my village, and I hope to earn your support in this election.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Adrian Ermer. Next up is Chris Levy.
Excuse me, I need to be able to come with this.
Happy Sunday, everyone. Thank you for your presence. I'm happy to be here. I'm humbled to be here with these folks. My name is Chris Levy. I'm candidate for 5th Ward Alderman. I'm running for office for one reason, to be the change that I want to see. I am a child of the Chicago South Side. I attended school at St. Felicitas in Avalon, high school at Mendel Catholic, sorry Mark Carter, in the Roseland Pullman area. And I attended college at the University of Illinois in Urbana, graduating with a degree in industrial engineering in 1994. For the past 15 years, I have lived in the South Shore Jackson Park Highlands with Team Levy. It's so apropos that this is a women's league. I live with all women. I have a wife and 3 daughters. 2 of the 3 are over there, 8, 11, and 28. The oldest just graduated from Northwestern, passed the bar, she's now a lawyer. Unlike my competition, I have 0 experience in politics. However, we have a lot of folks running around this city with a lot of experience, and not a lot of things are getting done. So I won't tout that, but I have been wildly successful in my sales career. I am a sales director for a Wide Spirits organization. I am responsible for managing my teams, their careers, their successes, and ultimately for the well-being of their families. As alderperson, I would like to utilize those skills to bring those same benefits to our beloved 5th Ward. Public safety, economic development, and community services are my platform forum. My name is Chris Levy. I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris Levy. Okay, next up.
At the present moment, I am a special ed, diverse learners teacher. I'm a coach. I'm a member of the Chicago Teachers Union. But I want you all to know that there is a sleeping giant awakening in the 5th Ward. You know, a lot of people are tired of the lack of services or lack of even connecting them to the services in different parts of the ward. Some parts of the ward, and I stress this, some parts of the ward have great services, and that should be, but there should be equity in all parts of the ward. And while I was gathering signatures, I really heard an earful for the neglect that has gone on for 24 or more years in our ward. Now, I want to say this as well. It's good to have the Obama Library, but the Obama Foundation should not have stalled on signing a CBA. We don't want any displacement for our residents in this ward. We want to be fair and equitable to all. I won't talk your ears off, but thank you, and vote for Palmer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert Palmer. Next up is Dee Perkins.
Hello, good evening, and thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Dee Perkins, and I am the people's champ. I'm not the people's champ because I'm a professional boxer, but because I will fight for everyone. I'm about inclusivity, growth, and prosperity. But most importantly, I'm about community. I'm about creating a safer, closer, connected ward. Doing that through a community peer patrol team, ward-wide Wi-Fi, a ward resident-only website, protecting our seniors, engaging our youth, and encouraging entrepreneurship and local business development, among other things. And then working tirelessly downtown and City Hall for your best interest. I have experience working in government as a corporate tax auditor for several years, where I police Fortune 500 companies who are doing business in the Midwest. I have a financial accounting degree from Loyola University and a computer science certificate as well. My campaign says that it is time to get to know our neighbors again, and I believe that wholeheartedly. By getting to know our neighbors again, I don't mean Hyde Park and South Shore and Woodlawn and Greater Crossing, although that is very important. What I mean is, it's time to get to know us again, get to know our neighbors again, literally. We need to know the person to the left of us, to the right of us, on the next block, on the block behind us, and the people down the street. I sincerely believe that when we do that, we start caring not only about each other, but about our surroundings and the well-being of our future.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Dee
Thank you
Perkins.
so much for your time. Together we can change the ward and then the world. Pick Perkins. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Gabriel Piemonte.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is nice to see you again. Thank you. I can do either. Yeah. It's very good to see a lot of you I haven't seen since 2019 when I ran, and we've some things have happened since then. We had a horrible pandemic, but a lot of other things have happened as well. And we'll be talking about a lot of issues over the next couple of hours. I think the emphasis I want to place on this conversation is economic justice. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people in this room and a lot of people I've talked to are very concerned about public safety, and that's a real thing. It's something we have to worry about, we have to talk about. I want to make sure when we're talking about it, that we're talking about the entirety of what we need to do to be a safer community as an entire ward. And that really has to also be a discussion about employment, and it has to be a discussion about housing insecurity. We have had, in the last year, we've hit the highest eviction rate at one point in the city, and we've also had the highest homicide rate in South Shore. That, to me, is not a coincidence. I want to talk more about that, the connection between the crisis that people are experiencing and the violence that we're seeing in our communities, and talk about some things we can do about that. In addition to that, I want to just make mention that I've been in the ward for 24 years, lived in Hyde Park for 13, lived with my beautiful wife in Woodlawn for 11, and was the editor of the Hyde Park Herald for 8 years. And look forward to getting to know all of you a little bit more, including my 11 colleagues up here.
Thank you, Gabriel Piemonte. Okay, next is Renita Hugh Ward on the ballot. Renita.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Renita Ward. It is fantastic to be here with each of you. I thank the league for allowing us to have this opportunity, and then of course I thank each of you for being an engaged and informed voter. I live here in the Hyde Park area. I am uniquely qualified to serve as your next 5th Ward alderperson. I do take this opportunity not just to introduce myself, but to ask for your vote. I am a graduate of the University of Chicago with a master's degree in divinity. I also have a second master's in mass communication and journalism. I earned my bachelor's in journalism as well. And today I work as an associate general counsel or a healthcare attorney for a major healthcare organization. I don't just have the education, I have a compassion for people, and I have a plan for the 5th Ward. It will be focused on youth. It will be focused on economic development. It will be focused on education. It will be focused on a responsive and efficient government. As your next 5th Ward alderperson, I intend to listen to you and respond to you and work with you to not just have a local lens, but to have a global lens as well. I thank you for this opportunity. I look forward to the conversation. Again, Renita Ward, on February 28th, 2023, I ask that you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Renita Ward. Next up is Desmond Yancey.
And the last shall be first, amen. Thank you all for this opportunity to talk with you. My name is Desmond Yancey. I'm a longtime resident of South Shore, father of an 8-year-old son who is in the corner. I have a long and successful career as a labor community organizer and policy advocate. I'm currently the Senior Director of Organizing and Advocacy at Inner City Muslim Action Network. where we work on issues related to health justice, reforming the criminal justice system, and then access to healthy food. I'm running because I'm concerned about the future of Black Chicago. We're in a moment right now where we have 15 new open seats. We've got a number of aldermen who are facing tough challenges, and many of those are in wards that are Black and suffer from disinvestment. And when we think about that opportunity in front of us, we need to get left behind and move forward. So in this moment, it's important that we elect people, leaders, who have a track record of doing the right thing, standing in the right places, and working for all of us. So when my mother was diagnosed with cancer and needed a home care worker, I fought in Springfield for more funding for programs for seniors and people with disabilities. When Bruce Rauner held our budget hostage and caused harm in our communities, I was arrested protesting his brutality. And after the murder of Laquan McDonald, I founded the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability, which in 2021 passed an ordinance to bring true police accountability finally to the city of Chicago. So with that, we should elect people who have a track record of doing the work and who stand in the gap. I'll tell you more about me soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Desmond Yancey. Okay, now we're moving on to the questions. Now, as you can imagine, with 12 candidates, it's kind of impossible. We have broken these into 3 questions for 4 to answer, so that you all don't get bored and that you don't have to say ditto, ditto, ditto. So let's get started. We'll be starting down here, you 4 together. And this time, why don't we start with Wallace for the first one? And that is, express your thoughts on the Obama Presidential Center with respect to affordable housing. And Wallace Good will go first. And I'm sorry to say, this is 30 seconds. The others will be 45, but we gotta keep moving. Okay, guys.
Yeah. Wait, don't start yet.
I don't start.
Testing. There we go. In 30 seconds or less, tell me what you think about the Obama Presidential Center and its future.
And affordable housing.
And affordable housing. As a kid who grew up in Woodlawn, the Museum of Science and Industry was where we went regularly. It was within walking distance, and one more example of incredible education for a kid growing up in Woodlawn. In terms of affordable housing, there were folks who lived here who could afford to go to places like that, and we need to make sure in the future that folks who can live here can afford to live here. I have friends and family who own property in Woodlawn. I would hate to see them ousted by this new Obama Presidential Center. Affordable housing and OPC, I support.
Thank you. Thank you, Wallace. Next, Joshua Gray.
All right. So Obama Presidential Center. I am happy to have it. I think it'll be another great place to go, like this, as Wallace said, the science and Museum of Science and Industry. I'm disappointed about the lack of CBA. I do not, I'm disappointed by the amount of land, trees, and the beautiful scenery we had. I'm just really disappointed about that. But I'm happy to have it. I do not, as your next alderman, I do not and will not support people being displaced from their homes in Woodlawn and anywhere else. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Jocelyn Hare.
Jocelyn here. Thank you. And the OPC and its impacts on affordable housing are what I've been working on for the last 7 years. We have the data on it. We know that in 2015, when the announcement was made, prices in Woodlawn shot up astronomically, so that folks who lived there, who were renters, could not afford the homes there. $750,000 homes started getting built in Woodlawn. Property taxes went up. My neighbors in my building, we had a $58,000 special per unit this year, and my neighbor was a nurse who was working during COVID, and the other neighbors said, you can't afford it, we're gonna hire a lawyer. We need resources because folks are getting priced out of their neighborhood.
Thank you, Jocelyn Hare. Next, Marlene Fisher.
I'm in support of the Obama OPC, and I'm in support of affordable housing. In Woodlawn, there's been 3 housing projects, and 30% of them are allocated for affordable housing. And also, we have to remember, the Museum of Science and Industry has been here, and those lots have been empty for years. This is an opportunity for new residents to come into the ward and for residents to seek homes and renting. So I think this is a good thing for the community, and it's an opportunity for neighbors and residents to see the benefits of this and not look at this as displacement.
Okay, and now we're going to the next question for the four, and that is simply express your thoughts on the Obama presidential. And I'm trying to be fair about who goes.
The Obama Presidential Center is going to be a boon on jobs. We've already seen it. They've been meeting and exceeding all of their workforce diversity numbers and their professional services and contractor numbers. This is heartening to me because I think that means they will be a really good partner at the table as it relates to the ongoing community and economic development that will have to happen concurrently with construction. We can't think about economic development when they're opening up the doors to 300,000 people a year. We have to think about economic development today and business development and protecting our small businesses to be prepared for the tourism that presidential center will bring.
Thank you, Adrian. Next is Chris Levy, and the same question, Obama Center and jobs.
Sure, thank you. The Obama Center is a good thing. I'm in support of it. It's a bright, shiny thing in our backyard. It'll produce a lot of jobs and a lot of money. My concern, and I believe this of any entity going into a community, is that the people of that community benefit from it. And I do have my reservations on that. So while I'm optimistic, I am very concerned about the people that currently live in the Fifth Ward, that the Obama Center benefits the people who live here.
Next up is Robert Palmer.
Yeah, like I said before, the Obama Center may be a great thing for our ward, but a lot of the jobs, or it needs to be set aside on the jobs to go to citizens of our ward. And if we have to vote on it as many times as McCarthy had to vote on his speakership, which is a new term for McCarthyism, then if that's what we have to do, then we'll hold their feet to the fire.
And next up is Tina Home.
Transformational development has to be truly transformational for everyone on the board. And one of the things that transformational development has to be transformational for everyone in the ward. There's a lot of good work that's happening with the actual construction of the Obama Center, but the plan has to be looking for jobs post the construction of the Obama Center. It has to be long-term and systematic. And it can't just be jobs, it has to be career pathways. It is true that we are not going to solve crime in this community unless we give people jobs and good jobs that they can buy houses with and stabilize their lives. And so we also need to make sure that the construction is done. Those unions have to have African American representation.
Great, thank you, Tina. Okay, the next question, for the next four, is express your thoughts on the Obama Presidential Center, surprise, surprise, with respect to traffic patterns.
I wanted that one.
By the way, before you get started, don't start the time yet, anyone who wants to take up anything that they weren't asked, we've given, a big whopping 90 seconds for the closing statement. Or if you have something where you have a short answer, you can finish out your time with something else. Just wanted you all to know that. I'm sure you figured it out. Okay. Gabriel,
before we
you're
go
up
on
first.
to the next group, there has been an ask online that all of you speak up when you're speaking into the microphones because they cannot hear you.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, these microphones want to be very close to your mouth.
Okay, well, I can do loud. So all of these are interconnected. I think talking about traffic patterns fundamentally the problem we have with the Obama Center is they have never felt like they had to listen to us. It should never have been in Jackson Park. They are not hiring diverse. I live across from the Obama Center. That is a white and Latino construction crew with a few black folks. So maybe the people who are the GCs or who the contracts are going to there's diversity there, but in fact there isn't, and there's not local hiring. You just talk to people, they'll tell you. Traffic, we don't have a bus line anymore on Stony Island. It's a disaster. We've got to do something about it.
Thank you, Gabriel. Okay, next up, Ernita Ward.
Well, it's no secret that the traffic is a bit of a pain with the Obama Library coming up. I do believe with us working together and continuing to engage the Obama Library, we will be in a great position come 2025 when we have a world-class presidential library in our backyard. I hope that you'll entrust me as your next Fifth Ward alderperson to work with the Obama Library to make sure that we have smooth, accessible roads, and that means holding them accountable, but also being good partners.
Thank you, Renita. And next, Desmond Yancey.
So as a longtime resident of South Shore who's traveled between South Shore and Hyde Park a lot, when I found out that Cornell Drive was going to be taken away from us, I was heartbroken, right? I feel like the foundation has done a poor job of making sure that we were aware of how adversely our traffic was going to be affected. You can't take the shortcut on South Shore, on Cornell, you can't take Stony, and you can't take Lakeshore Drive, right? And so what I believe is just a much more robust community engagement process, one instituted by our office, to make sure that as these things are happening, that people are more involved, more engaged, and are fully aware of its impact.
Thank you, Desmond. Okay, back to Dee Perkins.
Yeah, so as someone who rides the CTA regularly, I have experienced, the problems with traffic with the Obama Center and the construction coming. I do know also that there will be a lot of benefits to that as well, as far as allowing, our students to cross the street easily from Kenwood, to Jackson Park when they access sports and other after-school activities. I too am saddened about the closing of Cornell and some of the other streets. We have problems with bike access, pedestrians, and other things coming with that we're going to have to address. And now's not the time. We'll have to do that afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee. Okay, next up, we're going to do 3 yes or no questions. And I hate to ask it, but if you could stand when you are expressing yes, and sit down, and then no, for Facebook and for the people over in the wings. I think standing would be our best answer. And obviously, if you're unsure, I'll put an unsure at the end, okay? All right, this is an effort to get a little more content in a 12 people. Do you support Chicago City landmarking of the Promontory Point, which would ensure repair, restoration, and rehabilitation per the Secretary of the Interior's standards for historic preservation? All of those in favor of this, please stand.
Ding, 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 ding.
I can't see, but if you could sit down, if there's someone who isn't standing, could you please stand up now? Or no? Thank you, made my life easy. Okay. Number 2, the city of Chicago, over a decade ago, dissolved its Department of Environment, leaving a broad range of environmental issues to be dealt with across scattered city departments. Do you support the reestablishment of the Department of Environment? If you agree, please stand now. Okay, and if you could sit down. Is anyone here who doesn't? Aren't these great questions? Okay, this is our third and last in this round. Would you support streamlining or consolidating city and county public transportation agencies to simplify making current and planned stops and platforms fully accessible for people with disabilities, including the nearly 1/3 of the CTA stops that are currently not accessible for all? All of those in favor? please stand. Anyone against? Okay. Everyone sit, please. Okay. Please stand. No or unsure.
Unsure. I'm not against it, but saying that we combine 8.
Okay. No, you can address it at the end. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry. Sorry, it's just crazy here. Yeah, I know I have to be a dictator. But we're going to put that as an unsure. Okay. All right. Next topic, mostly equity and economic development is this topic. We try to keep the questions in the same area. Okay, so this time we are going to start with the second group. And that would be beginning with Chris Levy. You are first. And here's the question. The first question. TIF stands for Tax Increment Financing, and it is collected from homes and businesses in TIF areas. This money can be used to improve infrastructure or provide other incentives to encourage economic development in an area. How would you plan to spend the ward's TIF money over the next 4 years? And you have 45 seconds for this answer.
Sure, I don't know if I need 45 seconds. TIFs are a good thing when applied properly. The problem is one person or group's interest may be in conflict with another group's interest. My plan is to have the community involved in the decision-making process. So do I have something outlined right now that I spend that TIF money on? Absolutely not. That would take into account the community and the community's wishes.
Okay. Next up is Robert Palmer.
All right, if TIFs are used properly, they can be a good thing. Sometimes they're funneled to other places, and that's not a good thing. But agreeing with Chris, that would be something that the locked out part in particular would have a say-so in the projects and the things that we end up doing. There are a number of things on the table, but 30 seconds is not enough time to really go into some of those things. And I am a real estate broker as well, and we may even have to, or at least look at zoning, or maybe restructuring some of the zoning.
Thank you, Robert. Okay. Oh, you got one. Okay.
So like everyone else has said, I think that TIFs, they've gotten a bad reputation, but when used properly, they're incredibly important for those areas that can't otherwise get investments. The largest TIF in this ward is the TIF on 71st Street. They're not just sort of randomly, let's have a TIF. They get set. And I would emphasize making sure I want 71st Street to be as vibrant as 53rd Street. And I think we need to look at taking that TIF, making sure that we are focusing that TIF on making sure the 71st Street corridor, which is sort of the granddaddy of transit-oriented development with the metro train driving down the middle, we ought to be able to make 71st Street a destination for the city. And that's what we need to be using the TIF money for, doing what we need to do to make 71st Street a destination for the city the way 53rd Street is.
Thank you, Tina. Adrian Ermer is next.
Hi, everybody. So TIFs are an effective tool to deploy resources where they're really needed the most. And I think historically they've been handouts to larger developers. I want to focus in on 2 things with our TIF money. One, I want to find entrepreneurs and folks who want to start small businesses and deploy TIF money to the people who live in the community to start businesses for the people who live in the community. And the second thing that I want to do is identify projects that are going to be a huge benefit and boon to the community for developers who are willing to sign a CBA and be equitable in their deploying of jobs and resources. It pains me to think that millions of dollars went to Hyatt hotels. They don't need handouts, right? So yeah, I want to think very creatively like that and work with each of you.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay, moving on to the next question. for our next group. And we'll be starting with you. Systemic racism and racial segregation have led to stymied opportunities for people of color and decades of disinvestment in neighborhoods where they live. Please offer any plans you may have to redress this problem.
Thank you. I believe the first thing to do is what you just said, which is recognize that systemic racism is a problem. I think that the second thing that we can do is engage the communities that have actually been impacted by systemic racism. Ask them what it is that they need to be able to move forward. I think that what is key in us working together to address problems that are long-standing, like racism, is to do something like we're doing here today. That is to gather in a room, very diverse, very intergenerational, and identify what it is that we can do to tackle the issues that are plaguing us. What is it that we can do to address the things that are keeping us from moving forward together? I believe key to addressing is communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Renita. And next up is Desmond Yancey.
So we got 45 seconds is a lot of time. However, I believe that we should capitalize small businesses, particularly small black businesses. My first job was at 1615 East 55th Street at Hyde Park Video Movie Center. Folks remember that place. And working for local businessmen gave me invaluable tools that are still living with me today. I also believe that we should consider, or should strongly consider, or move legislation to support formerly incarcerated people, whether it's by tax credits or job training programs, to make sure that we are continuing to support investment into our biggest resources, which are the people in the community.
Thank you, Desmond. Next up, Dee Perkins. Yes, I could. Systemic racism and racial segregation have led to stymied opportunities for people of color and decades of disinvestment in neighborhoods where they live. Please offer any plans you may have to redress this problem.
Well, I think to address this issue, we need to go back to the TIF fund issue. The TIF funds are largely untransparent, and I think that we need to reallocate TIF funds into the TIF purchase program to allow homeowners to purchase vacant properties in their neighborhoods, rehab them with TIF money, live in them, and then also be able to rent them out and have income, creating affordable housing and income. I think once we do that, the TIF money should also be used for businesses. In 2015, I put in a FOIA request for 3 years worth of funds allocated to 71st Street, $1.3 million, and I got back, we have no information on this. That's not okay. Where is the money? I've lived there for over 15 years. I'm still looking at 71st Street looking the same way.
Thank you, Dean. Next up, Gabriel Piemonte.
So it's absolutely true that people of color are discriminated against in this city, in the state, in this country. The descendants of enslaved black American citizens are disproportionately represented in our ward and disproportionately and uniquely discriminated against in our country. So if we're going to do something that's ward specific rather than sort of broad ideas and platitudes, we have to be looking at strategic programs that specifically benefit black Americans. And I think that begins with housing, that begins with a housing crisis, and we have to look at the number of people who are at this moment dealing with either foreclosure or the risk of eviction or dealing with sky-high assessments, who also are part of that group who are victims of housing discrimination. Historically, in Chicago, we have been discriminating against black Americans, black Chicagoans, for decades, and that has to stop, and there also has to be redress for that.
Thank you very much, Gabriel. Great. Okay, let's go on to the next group and the next question. Job loss is a major reason South and Southwest Side communities have suffered so many economic and social ills in the first place. Please present some of your ideas for job creation in the 5th Ward, and we will be starting with Joshua.
All right, so job creation is the question, right? I think first thing we have to get organizations to come, entities to come to our neighborhood, right? We've had to ask and beg organizations like Starbucks, which is probably one of the biggest Starbucks now to come in our neighborhood. We need to, unfortunately, use our bully pulpit to kind of bring other organizations like Starbucks, like corporations, not organizations, corporations like that to our community. The problem is that we have no, we don't really have good paying jobs. So the jobs that are really meant for teenagers, which are like fast food jobs, are being done by adults, right? And so our teenagers don't have jobs, and our adults have jobs and they're underemployed. So we need to bring corporations here to get some middle employment to us, and I'm done. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. Next up, Jocelyn Hare.
Thank you. Frankly, I disagree. I do not want to see more Potbellies, more chain stores down here. I want to support our local small businesses. Our small businesses are who hire our folks, and they're living in the neighborhood. They are the ones that are creating jobs for us. So it's our local businesses I feel we really need to support if we want to be supporting workers and have work opportunities in our area. Having said that, there are so many people who already have things that they do. They cook, they make things, they fix cars. It's not necessarily an official business, but if we can get those folks into an incubator, train, get the whole marketing piece together, we can have people sell the stuff that they're already making. We could have things, people get paid for the work that really interests them. We need to have jobs that pay a living wage.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Next up, Marlene Fisher.
In order to capitalize on jobs, I think we really need a small business incubator in South Shore. If we want to get that 71st Street corridor back to how it was, there was an article in the paper that said it was the magnificent mile of the South. We need to be innovative with our entrepreneurs, and we need to encourage them to come to the South Side and build up shop, and we need to support them. So this is something the TIF Fund could do. This is something we could do as a community to be open to businesses that we may not be accustomed. And then on the Chamber of Commerce, we got to get to the bottom of why won't they come? And we have to ask direct questions. How come you won't come over here? And then we got to see why. And we have to have safe community too, so businesses are not scared, so people are not scared to go to the incubator. So thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Next up, Wallace Good.
When you talk Chamber of Commerce, that's my language. After 11 years of helping Hyde Park's Chamber of Commerce attract businesses, do workforce development, and move ahead. Every time I talk to a business owner in South Shore about 71st Street, half of them say, we're waiting, and I say, waiting for what? The other half, to move ahead. It's one of those lose-lose scenarios, so we need to look at a much more comprehensive plan. I've talked to the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, I've talked to the Woodlawn Chamber of Commerce, and I talk all the time to the Hyde Park Chamber of Commerce. We know how to do business, and let us begin to do that. I don't have to wait to be alderman to help businesses develop in this community. I'm committed to that.
Thank you very much, Wallace. Okay, on to the next set of 3 questions. We'll start with this group this time, and that will be Desmond. We will be first. Our topic is public safety for all 3 questions. What strategies do you support for reducing violent crime in the city, including the current spate of carjackings?
So I spent the last 6 years working to build the Community Commission on Public Safety and Accountability, which is a new commission whose charge is to not just hold bad police accountable, but also to reestablish a public safety system in the city where we all feel safe, right? So I support robust engagement with that office. There are local district councils, which will give a hyper-local experience and opportunities for people to get involved in how their communities are policed. This board has both the 2nd and 3rd police districts, so I would encourage people to get involved there as well. Also understand that we've got some wayward kids, and it's really important for us to make sure that we have opportunities for these children. Like many folks, got involved with youth activities as a child, and I have friends who didn't and who made other decisions and unfortunately are reaping what they had sown. And so I think it's just incumbent upon us to make sure that the children who we represent are well taken care of.
Thank you, Desmond. Okay, next up, Dee Perkins.
Well, part of my platform is to create a community peer patrol team. And this team would be comprised of highly trained ward residents of different levels. Some will be paid volunteers, some will be volunteers solely, and some will be employees. I believe having you can't hear me? Oh. I believe that having this team around would allow the community to not only feel safer, but like I said, to be peer patrolled. And I don't like using the word patrol necessarily, but we can police ourselves, so to speak. When you have a presence and you care about where you live, things change. When the people that look like you are also patrolling you, things are different as well there. I feel that also if that creates jobs and people are making money where they live, they will treat things differently. And so like I said, that's the community peer patrol is a big part of the public safety in the Fifth Ward.
Thank you, Dee. Next up, Gabriel Piemonte.
So in the short term, I think what the Fifth Ward can do is model an approach that other wards can take. The first thing that I think is terrifically important is to recognize that connection between economic insecurity and crime. And we know it. There are a ton of studies, and we know through our own experience that when people are in crisis, and I'm going to go back to housing crisis, because that's a real problem. When you don't know if you're going to be in your home, you're going to make some desperate decision. We've got to address the economic conditions that lead to people making desperate decisions. Second, we need to deal with the police and the police budget. We have a police budget that goes up every year. Arrests go down. We need a more accountable police department. And then I think we have to fund programs in the community that have sort of the incidental effect of reducing crime, like community gardens, and having anything that has people outdoors has a really positive effect in terms of criminal activity.
Thank you, Piemonte. Renita Ward next.
Yes, as a former clerk at the criminal courthouse for the presiding judge, and also as a current member of the faith-based community with the Chicago Police Department, I do understand that we have to continue to work together. We have a lot of plans. I think it's been said by the colleagues here, but I think we have to have that tight strategic partnership with the Chicago Police Department, with the University of Chicago Police Department, and with local block clubs and community organizations to work together to stomp out crime that does not belong in our community. We all deserve a safe place to live.
Thank you. Thank you, Renita. Okay. Check myself. Okay, we're moving now to the next question, and this group here. And Jocelyn, you will be first on this time around. And the question is, I went that way. I went. Oh, I know. You guys are coming next. You're last this time. Okay. Here's the question. Sadly, Cook County Jail currently serves as a de facto mental health facility. With a no-cash bail system in Illinois, Chicago will need even more mental health facilities than ever. How will you meet this challenge?
The fact that Cook County Jail is our largest mental health service provider is horrifying to me. It is horrifying. The fact that we closed down our mental health clinics under the Rahm Emanuel administration, horrifying. This is something that needs to be addressed. Having folks, when we call 988 right now, they don't send mental health people. You get sent the police. This has happened. When you hear shots in the neighborhood, you're not getting folks coming and responding. With regards to mental health, it is essential. We have trauma-informed policies everywhere, in schools, in our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Next up, Marlene Fisher.
Can you repeat the question?
Sadly, Cook County Jail currently serves as a de facto mental health facility. With a no-cash bail system in Illinois, Chicago will need even more mental health facilities than ever. how will you meet this challenge?
The Safety Act hopefully will be passed in Illinois, and the mayor just passed $200 million for mental health facilities. Hopefully that'll be reopened. And I think when we have to have mental health specialists responding to mental health emergencies, and I think that's first and foremost to work with the police. The police could be in the back without their hands on their guns, and the mental health specialist can work with that person. That's how I would do it.
Thank you, Marlene. Wallace, good, next.
I was going to answer this in my final statement, but I think it illustrates exactly the kind of team of people who are up here right now. The creative ideas that I hear coming out here are exactly what we need to be doing in reference to mental health. Whether it's Marlene, whether it's Jocelyn, who are saying these things, think of it collectively. It is a travesty that our country and our city and our communities have not voted mental health as a priority. And we continue to allow that to happen. If you weren't out protesting about the need for mental health, what did Eldridge Cleaver say? If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Thank you, Wallace. Next up, Joshua Gray.
Alrighty, 3 points on this subject. First thing, we need a center in each neighborhood, like the church is doing in Bronzeville. I think the name is, I can't think of the name. Life Star, right? Bright Star. What they're doing in the community is great. We need at least half of that, what they're doing in each community would be great. Secondly, I think we need more services in our schools. These kids need to talk to somebody. Imagine going to school every day for the year and knowing 5 of your classmates are dead. That's trauma. I can't even think about that. It's traumatizing. And lastly, I think we need to. I think we need to reimagine the CAPS office. Right? I know a lot of people said that throughout the years, but we need to reimagine the CAPS office, and we need to include mental health services within that. Right? They have CAPS office has a response team to everything else, abandoned buildings, and so on. They can have a response team to mental health. Thank you.
Joshua. Thank you. Okay, on to the next question, and Robert Palmer will be our first candidate. How do you see yourself working with the 3 newly elected councilmen of the 2nd Police District and with the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability? How do you see yourself as an alderman working with these? I will. How do you see yourself as an alderman working with the 3 newly elected councilmen of the 2nd Police District? We have an election coming up for that. And already in place is the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, those 2 groups.
Well, I would work in tandem with them. And not only that, with the commanders that are in the districts in our ward. And as far as mental health needs to be a priority in our ward. You know, if you even look at it, some of the athletes are brave and coming out and admitting their struggles, and I commend them for that. And I want to say too, as far as some of the youth need mentorship. I live in Pockettown, and I'm not afraid, I don't know about other candidates, but I'm not afraid to go into the most dangerous parts of the ward. So,
Thank you.
All right.
And next is Tina Holmes, sorry.
So I've already reached out to the people who are running for those spots. In fact, I had dinner with one of them. It's not just the 2nd district, it's the 3rd district too.
I didn't realize that, I'm sorry.
It's a little piece of it. But I think it's what's incredibly important is I think this is a great opportunity to restore trust between the police department and the public. And so we have to be fully supportive of this new council. You know, until we restore the trust between the police department and the people that it serves, we're not going to be able to get ourselves out of this mess. I just believe that this council is an incredibly important part of that. I also want to say on the mental health front, we need to train our teachers to understand that they're seeing signs of trauma in their students, and we need to fund enough counselors in the schools to treat that trauma. Because that is ground zero for us, is making sure our traumatized kids aren't going out carjacking. because it's all interconnected.
Thank you, Tina. Next, Adrian Ermer.
So I would work as an amplifier to the work of the accountability and transparency that these bodies are meant to create for us, the taxpayers who pay the salaries of police officers. And I would work with them to hold them accountable, hold the police department accountable for hiring officers from the community who look like the people that they're policing. I think it's ridiculous to think that I could go out and have an interaction with a police officer from Bridgeport in South Shore. That's terrifying to me, quite frankly. Given, when I grew up in the 90s, I didn't go to Bridgeport after dark. Right? So we need to have these very complex conversations, and the alderman is the person who's supposed to stand in the gap and amplify these requests and these demands on behalf of our community.
Thank you, Adrian. Next is Chris. I want you to be Chris Levy. You just be yourself, okay?
Sure. A couple of ideas, a little bit different. I think this is a crisis. I would seek state and national funding. I think that's putting a Band-Aid on this mental health crisis that we have going on. I'm a big believer in preventing a problem before it happens. I think long term, we need more programs for young people. I played Little League from 5 till 17. And my coach was not only, he was a parent when I wasn't there, and a disciplinarian as well. And, just to take my daughters to dance, I have to drive, neighborhoods over. Those programs are the types of programs that are important. In terms of policing, they don't necessarily need to look like me. It would be ideal. I was educated by a bunch of older Caucasian nuns. And they I think, did a good job. But I do think they need foot patrol and more community engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to another set of questions. I think I'm going to have to cut some things here, unfortunately. Let's keep the one that has to do with education. Okay. 30 seconds only for these. Chicago's, and we will be starting down here again with you, Marlene, back to the beginning. Chicago's 50 aldermen don't have obvious power over city schools. They don't choose who sits on the Board of Education, picks the school's chief, or have anything to say over school closings. They don't control budgets, contracts, personal issues. How can you, as a concerned alderman, still have an impact on the quality and trajectory of schools in the ward?
As an alderman, I would really stay engaged with the principal and the local school council, because when we talk about crime and carjacking, everything starts with the community. The community can control all of this. If you know your neighbor's kids, if you know your neighbor's cousins, you know what they're doing, you can control it. So what I would do is I would really stay in contact with the local school councils, and I would have events. I would have events where I get to know the students, where I get to know with the teachers, and I get to know what are the problems, so that we can work together to solve them.
Thank you, Marlene. Wallace Good is next.
There are 13 elementary schools in the 5th District. There are 4 high schools in the 5th District and 1 world-class outstanding university. After being a dean for 25 years, don't tell me we can't fix education. We have to have the will to focus on it. And the exciting part is, let's take a small neighborhood, a small district like the 5th Ward, and use it as a pilot. The university does all kinds of research. Many of us know that research doesn't get down to the ground in the community. We need to figure out how to make that happen. The principals at these schools need support, and so do the high schools. So I support that 110%.
Thank you. Thank you, Wallace. Joshua Gray.
First thing I would do is make sure that my presence is known amongst the board meetings. I want to make sure that I'm there, I attend, I know what's going on to bring back the information to my ward. The second thing I would do was twofold. I would meet with the network chiefs for the area, as well as the principals. And we have one unified vision to make sure that our kids are being educated in our ward, right? if I know what's going on from the board level and then I'm talking to the network and the principals, then that is a small change, small thing, the least I can do to make sure we get back on track with education.
Thank you. And Jocelyn Herrick is next.
With regard to education, there are a lot of options down here in the Fifth Ward, and so the needs of our schools are different on different blocks. I'm committed to creating a ward council that's comprised of residents that actually vote on the matters that are relevant to them. So, schools, what we need to do, we need to talk to the folks who are going to the schools, who are attending the schools, the folks who live on the block who don't send their kids to the schools. Why don't you send the kids to school? And I would walk with the students to their schools, sit with them during the day, and learn and listen. I think that's the first step we need to take.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, on to the next question, and we will be here in the middle for this group. Tina Hahn is up first. How will you work to strengthen local school councils? Starting in 2024, how will you support and or check the new elected school board?
Oh, that's a fun question for a former elected school board member. I think that it's very important that we recognize that this elected school board is going to have to be our partner. We may not have technical authority over the school system, but you can always build relationships to have relationships to get things done in the school system. There's also, so I would work very closely with both the local school councils and the elected school board members when they come. I also think it's important to say that it's not that the city doesn't have any control, because there's still a huge transfer that comes from the city to the school system, and you can put strings attached to that.
Thank you, Tina. Adrian Ermer is next.
To strengthen local school councils, I plan to visit their board meetings and have intentional relationship building with those folks who are very responsible for the education of our children. As the mother of two impossibly adorable boys, who I plan to send to public school, I want the LSCs to be as strong as they possibly can. And as it relates to the school board, I want to work with the candidates that are going to be supported by neighborhoods and residents and by teachers, not candidates that are going to be supported by corporations and that are funding these large charter schools, that some of which are not doing a very good job in our communities.
Thank you, Adrian. Next, Chris Levy.
Thanks. The biggest thing we can do as alderpersons is to help elevate their particular platform. We can amplify their voices with city officials and with the local citizens as well. I think that's the biggest push we could do for the local school council. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, and Robert Palmer.
All right, I have served on the local school council in 3 capacities: as a parent rep, a non-teacher rep, and as a teacher rep. You vote on a lot of important issues, and we need to encourage some of the parents to come out and not only participate in the meetings, but run for the offices. I would be in the schools, and I would be with the network chiefs as well, but as far as the local school council, I would be there, and I would support their needs, and I would listen in to what their needs would be.
Thank you, Robert. Okay. Okay, we're going now to our next question, and we will be starting with Dee Perkins. Okay, question. Charter schools receive public funding, but are not subject to the same rules as public schools. How would you ensure that charter schools are as transparent, accountable, and equitable as public schools?
I love this question. First of all, I believe that if charter schools are going to be treated like public school, are going to receive public funding, they should be treated like public schools. That's first and foremost. Secondly, we need to, I think, work with our charter schools to, I apologize, getting caught in my words. First of all, yes, like I said, if charter schools are receiving public funding, they need to be treated like public schools. I think that we need to re-emphasize the importance of our public school system, and that's my time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dee. And next, Gabriel. Diamante.
So charter schools are a disaster for the public school system. They need to be systematically dismantled. The ones that are working now should be kept because the experiment somehow worked out, and there are some on the south side that are doing terrific work. But the original idea of charter schools was you would have a small, one school or a small cluster of schools that would come up with something that, if it worked effectively, could be folded back in. We don't do that, and that's a problem. The other thing I want to say is our entire system of funding our public schools is also a disaster. We need to change that, including eliminating TIFs. I'm a little shocked I have so many colleagues up here who like them. They're horrible for school.
Okay. Thank you, Gabriel. Renita Ward is next.
Thank you. I believe it's a mix. I think it's a balance of working with the Chicago Public Schools to address the decrease in enrollment, creating centers of excellence. But when it comes to the charter schools, I don't think you can wholeheartedly just shut down schools that kids are currently attending and maybe attached to in some way. I think it's looking creatively at the school system holistically and determining what it is that we want to do together to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Renita. Desmond Yancey, you're next.
Yeah, this city had no problem closing schools that children were attending in 2013, right? I'm a former school teacher and am anti-charter. I feel like if we funded our regular public schools, we wouldn't have a need to fund charter schools. It's a very simple prospect for me. There are programs that are working, and I don't think we should close those schools. However, I just think it's incumbent upon us as we look at the education we want to provide for our children, that it's funded adequately, represented exceptionally, and supported by elected representative school board.
Thank you, Desmond. Okay, so I'm going to skip the torture that I was going to put you through, where you had to talk about being on a committee. That would have been fun. I know, it was going to be fun, but we've lost time, so I'm going to skip a yes or no in that, because we really do, I do want you all, because there are 12 of you, to be able to talk to the audience, because we were unable to have audience questions because of the number of candidates. So I'm stalling here to give you a little time, Desmond, to get ready for your closing statement. That would be 90 seconds, minute and a half for the closing statements. And then you're done. Okay, Desmond Yancey first.
Again, thank you all for this opportunity to talk about this very important office and this very important election. I want to start by saying, let's not minimize the power of professional organizing, right? If it wasn't for organizing, we wouldn't have the civil rights movement, the 8-hour day, 40-hour work week, women's suffrage, and marriage equality, right? So it's important to understand that this role as an elected official really should involve making sure the community is engaged and working towards building the city that we all want and deserve. With almost 20 years of experience in moving power, changing it from those who have held it so tightly and have disinvested our community, and shifting that balance of power. I'm the only one up here who has actually passed legislation in City Hall 2 years ago with the passage of ECPS. We had a coalition of over 100,000 Chicagoans, 24 community organizations, and faith-based organizations, and 36 aldermen who supported this legislation that our mayor frankly did. And so as we look at our leadership, we need to pick people who will speak truth to power, have a history of that, and will stand in the gap to make sure that those who have been disenfranchised, who have been frozen out of the system, come back so that we can have the city that we deserve. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Desmond Yancey. Next up, Renita Ward.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity to have been with you here today, and I am here to present to you a capable and compassionate choice to be your representative in City Hall. I truly believe that folks are just tired of political drama and deadlock. I know that we want to move forward together. I want to share with you, I am that candidate that can help move our ward forward effectively. I'm not just an attorney and a practicing attorney, I'm also a local pastor that puts together a heart for the community and the skills to do it. I can go effectively from the courtroom to the boardroom, from a jailhouse to a funeral home, from my house to your home. I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm your neighbor, and I look forward to serving you in the City Hall as your next 5th Ward Alderperson. I do sincerely ask for your vote on February 28th, 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renita. Next up, Gabriel Piemonte.
I think one of the things that a lot of us are concerned about right now in 2023 is the sort of uncertainty that's a result of the violence in our communities, the economic flux, and certainly housing insecurity is a big problem. Underneath a lot of that is a long history of discriminatory practices against one specific group. We have to be fair to everybody, and we need to create programs that serve everybody, but we also have to recognize that Black Americans have been discriminated against. A group that represents over half of this ward have been uniquely discriminated against. And so when we talk about policy, we talk about policy that serves a specific group of people that are disproportionately represented in our ward and disproportionately discriminated against on a host of levels. When we talk about experience, I think we all have a different set of experiences, and I think you'll do your research, you'll make your decisions. There are pros and cons to each one of us. I'm a co-founder of a credit union that is serving the 5th Ward right now and has over $4 million in deposits. I co-led an effort to save a historic landmark building where we were able to raise $1 million and have contracts for South and South suburban people working, putting money on the table for their families. Do your research. For me, it's gabe45.com, so GABEFORFIVE.com. Take a look and decide and reach out to us and have conversations. We haven't had a lot of time today. Please reach out to all of us. I'm sure we're all going to be more than happy to continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Up next, Dee Perkins.
So you have 12 candidates in front of you, all of them who are great and sound very good in their own right. I'm not a community activist. I'm not a group gatherer, and I'm not a soapbox speaker. I'm a quiet thought leader. I'm a business-minded community advocate who keeps her head down and I do the work, working solely for the best interest of my constituency. I cannot be bought, and I always strive to find the win-win in most situations, being able to make hard decisions with the input of the community, of course. Sticking to positions unless new factual information is provided, knowing that everyone won't always be pleased. My policies from housing to technology foster community, growth, and prosperity. My goal tonight was for you to feel as if you've gotten to know me a little better, and I hope that you have. I didn't have much time, and I just want to say one thing on the ADA. ADA is a part of my platform. I'm making our ward much more ADA compliant. The question that threw me off a little bit on is talking about the joining agencies, and I'm a fiscally minded person, and so my question to that was, what exactly does that come with? What does that mean fiscally? Does that mean it's going to take longer to do things? I'm not just a blind yes or no person. Sometimes I have backup questions, and that's how that question spoke to me. I just wanted to clear that up as well. Currently, I'm a professional boxer, a business manager. I help small businesses in the ward get their marketing and online presence together, helping them with bookkeeping and any other services that they may need. I'm also a youth mentor. I'm a youth boxing coach. You can come see me at Pump Fitness Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:30. PickPerkins.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee. Okay, up next is Robert Palmer.
All right, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for putting on this great forum today. And like I said before, there's a sleeping giant awakening in the 5th Ward. A lot of people don't just want a clone of what we had for the last 24 years. And I am a fresh voice, and I will pick up the mantle for everybody that's been locked out. I really talked to a lot of people that really felt neglected, and there's no sense in a big thriving ward like ours should have pockets where a lot of people are not taken care of or connected to city services or ward services. Once again, I am a special ed, diverse learners teacher. I'm also a real estate broker. I filed a successful lawsuit to reverse some speed zone and red light camera tickets. I've been a Special Olympics coach. I've been a baseball and football coach. And I've done a number of things in the ward. I started off my CPS career working 4 years at Ray School. I also worked for a short period of time at South Shore Academy, the old Fermi. We all have different skill sets, but it's about caring for the people and looking out for the people and listening to the people and connecting them to the things that they need to be connected to.
Thank you.
You gotta have love in your heart. Vote for Palmer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. Okay, up next is Chris Levy.
Thank you all again for having me. Great candidates up here. Thank you for allowing me to share this platform with you. I just want to review a little bit about what makes me different in my final few seconds. Again, we didn't get to talk about it in depth with my platform of public safety, economic development, and, economic development and community services. Public safety, short term, we didn't get to talk about it, but I intend to limit loitering in places of commerce. I think that's huge. I think it takes a lot of money out of our community when people go elsewhere because they're intimidated about going into a particular business. Long term, the community programs are huge. We have to prevent and we have to groom productive citizens. I do think we need, and Gabriel pointed it out, I do think we need more African American ownership, which will lead to more African American hiring to higher paying jobs. Again, I am not a career politician. However, I've been very successful in other areas of life. I am a mover of resources, a gatherer of resources, and I work very well with other people from other groups. Again, thank you. I hope to restore the 5th Ward. Vote for Chris Levy, 5th Ward Alderman. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. Up next is
still working.
Adrian Ermer. Adrian.
Hello again. I hope that this conversation doesn't end here. I look forward to running into each of you throughout the community as I'm out here working and knocking doors. But I'm asking for your vote because I've been working for you already. You've paid my salary when I worked on legislative affairs with Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, managing the legislation for the Bureau of Asset Management, and I thank you for that. And I worked hard for you. I worked for you already when I ran the district office for Kwame Raoul, our state senator at the time. I probably received phone calls from each of you when I was in that job early on in my career. I'm a public servant at heart. I was raised by 2 very strong women whose shoes I aim to fill and whose leadership has poured into me over these years and set the example. I am here for you. If you're looking for an alder person who's gonna maybe pick up the phone when you call the office and surprise you, that's me. If you're looking for the alder person who will put down her groceries in the grocery store and have a conversation with you, that's me. If you're looking for somebody who's gonna go to city council and get Alderman Brendan Riley to vote for things that affect us positively, because I have a relationship with him, having worked with him in city council before, that's me. I'm gonna work the hardest. I already worked the hardest. I self-circulated the most petitions in this race because I went to each of you to ask to believe in me. So I'm asking you again today for your votes to continue to believe in me and go all in for Adrian because I'm all in for you.
Thank you, Adrian. Next up, Tina Hung.
I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank the League of Voters for Women Voters for putting this forum together. At the end of the day, what I want is a 5th Ward that can thrive, and I want a city that can thrive. And in order to thrive, you can't thrive if you don't feel safe. We've got to reform the police. We've got to get programs for our kids. We've got to get jobs for the folks in the ward. And we have to deal with the crisis, the mental health crisis that is plaguing our ward. We need to end the blight that's caused by unfair development. We need development, but it can't leave anybody behind. We need to make sure that people who own their homes, because the affordable housing conversation, it's important for renters. There are only 28% of the people in South Shore own their homes. And they are at risk of being put out. They did everything right, and they are at risk of losing their homes. We have to increase home ownership. That is the pathway to the American dream. We also have to make sure that transit is fair. Services are fairly delivered to this ward. The north side has more people. 311 doesn't work because they are squeakier wheels. There has to be a better way to make sure that the people of this ward are getting services. There has to be a better way to make sure when the 28, the number 6, and the J14 don't run for us, that's our backbone to the city and our jobs. The ghost bus for us means we don't have another alternative to get downtown. I have been a social justice warrior all of my life. Don't just look at my website, Google me. I have fought systems forever. I am not diminishing the role of organizers. I am not diminishing the roles of advocates. I have been both. But when I was an elected member of the Fairfax County School Board, what I learned were those skill sets were not what got things done. What got done was putting aside what my particular view was and working with others to find common ground to get things done.
Thank you, Tina.
And I'm your person if that's what you want.
Thank you, Tina. Up next is Jocelyn Hunt.
Jocelyn Hare.
Jocelyn. My name is Jocelyn Hare, and it would be an honor and a privilege to serve you. This is the second time I've applied for this position. I don't have interest beyond our ward. This is something I've been training for since I ran 8 years ago. I've been working with residents. I've been working with nonprofit organizations in our ward on housing, on the issues that are impacting our local businesses. Residents, hundreds of them, have come together and have the data, the information, what is happening block by block. We know that. The information is up at historicsouthsidecommunitysurvey.com. Check that out. There are maps. So we know block by block, where is their vacancy? We know blight is contagious. Let's address that. Ms. Maddie Butler is my mentor. She was the one who asked in 2015 when the OPC was announced, what's happening with housing in Woodlawn? Because new people are moving in, and seniors that are here can't afford their property tax bills. What's happening? And because of the work we've done in Gary, Indiana, the university's Office of Civic Engagement came to the Harris School of Policy to help Ms. Maddie answer those questions. Ms. Maddie passed last month. A few weeks before she passed, there was a photo op where folks from the city, folks from the county, our elected officials came down in front of the Ms. Maddie Butler Affordable Housing Apartments. It's an incredible development. They were not there though when she passed, and there were holes in her roof, and it rained inside. They weren't there to help with her garage that was caved in Gary style. I'm here to help folks with their housing. I'm determined. I get things done. I think things through, and I work really well with people.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you. Okay, next up is Joshua Gray.
All right, thank you for an amazing forum. This is a great and fair forum. Everybody got to speak. I want to thank you guys again for attending. I am a Hyde Park native and a South Shore resident. Didn't say that earlier, but just want to let you know where my flag stands. This is a service job. I'm also thankful for Tina making that statement about organizing, because I was going to say something too, like Desmond. This is also an organizing job. You organize your constituents, right? You organize your votes in city council. You organize entities to bring money to your community. I know that because I worked for several aldermen. I've been to city council. I've sit on committees. I've done all that. But also have a history of service. And you deserve, I believe we all deserve a great service office. We deserve a community that's safe, right? We deserve a community that we are proud of, and that we can actually go and not go outside the community to get things, right? We deserve all these things. And if that's something you want, that is me in a nutshell. I think that's very subjective. I don't know if she's the hardest working person. I'm also a hard working person as well. I've been working hard for you guys for 20 years in this ward for a long, long time. And so if that's somebody you want, somebody that's going to give you service, that's going to work hard for you, then punch 54 for Joshua Gray. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Joshua. Next up, Wallace Good.
Let's not forget what month this is. In the words of Martin Luther King, all of us can be great because all of us can serve. That's what this is all about. The city has overextended itself. It's making promises it can't keep. That's the government right now. And when someone tells me I pay my taxes, I'm like, and? That's not enough anymore, okay? So we need to think about that. I reiterate how much I love this kind of event because I like to hear what the other folks are all working on, so collectively. Originally, I thought it was going to be a battle of David and Goliath. Then when Goliath backed out, I'm like, well, it's great, a bunch of Davids. Let's do it, you know? Let's hear about past, present, and our plans for the future. So when I think about what we really need, we need an alderman who speaks the languages of all the different players who are already at the table. The negative of a 24-year alderman is that when they leave, huge voids are created. And unless you already have the relationship with many of those players, it'll be challenging. I'm excited as I listen to other candidates who have some of those relationships. And collectively, we have all of those relationships. I'll be working on the economics, I have background in that. I'll be working on education, I have background in that. The environment, I share one quick story. Recently I had the eyes to see the point through an environmentalist who helped me see the point in a way that I had never seen it. It was for submarine races when I grew up. That was about it. I love seeing the point. And those of you who are old enough, remember that. It's okay. So thank you very much. Good for the 5th Ward.
Thank you, Wallace. Wonderful. And up last, not just next, is Marlene Fisher.
All right, everyone. I am not short on the eloquence. I'm a doer. I live in the pocket. I live behind one of the other candidates. I haven't seen you on the block, but I'm on the block. I cleaned up the lots over there. My name is Marlene Fisher. My website is Fisher for 5th Ward. I'm a master gardener. I'm a master farmer. I like flowers. I want to have some fun in the ward. I want to have some garden awards, some outdoor activities. The pandemic taught me a lot. We need to get outside. So we need to get outside. We need to get with our neighbors. And also, everything starts community, guys. We can have all the talk we want, but if people are not invested in the communities, we're not going to win. There's some ladies to go over and clean up Jackson Park. We need somebody in my community to come over and clean over there. So that's what I did. So we went and we did the work. I'm not that eloquent yet. This is my first one, and I thank you guys for having me. My name is Marlene Fisher, and I would really like your support to build, grow, and prosper the 5th Ward. Fisher for 5th Ward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Marlene. And let's thank our 12 candidates. They've been wonderful today. Very impressive crew here. So now it gets complicated. We're back to our original problem with being all in one room. Candidates want to talk to. Some of their supporters are here with literature. We've got literature out on the table. Please feel free to grab. Probably not a good idea to come up here. I think, yes. So I would say, I think it's best if the candidates move around more than you all come up here because they are so